Hey there! Welcome to a brand new episode of Muzikxpress. My name is Twan, and in this week's vlog you will see my interview with Jon The Dentist, in which he shares the story behind his classic Global Faces. But before we start with the interview, please make sure to subscribe to my channel, and very important, also make sure to click the bell button, because then you will get a notification the next time a new vlog is online. Alright, here it is, the story behind Global Faces, my interview with Jon The Dentist. Enjoy! Jon The Dentist is a British DJ and producer who's active in the scene for a long time already. As a DJ he played all over the world, and as a producer he is responsible for tracks such as Cyanide, Playa Sol, Feel So Good, Imagination, and of course his biggest anthem, Global Faces. In June 2022, just before his gig at the Legacy Festival in Belgium, I sat down with Jon to ask him about the story behind Global Faces and more. My first question to him was around what age he started to listen to music.
Well, I mean, my earliest memories are always going to be I was about 9 or 10. My mum and dad had this like really old record player, and it was white, and you had to like do this combination of buttons to get it to work. And then sometimes you'd be halfway through the track and the lever would just come up and you'd be like, start again. It didn't have like a manual button. And so from that, I'm sure you can guess that's like the mid-70s. So we're talking about Bowie. The Beatles were still massive in the mid-70s. So my parents had all the albums. So yeah, I would say Beatles. Before we come on to my influences, which was a little bit after that. So my earliest memories, Beatles and Bowie. Yeah. Nicely alliterated there.
So when did you start with making music yourself?
Oh, that happened I did learn to play the trombone at school. So I was a trained musician. I wasn't very good at it. Terrible. In fact, I was in the school band, right, for playing the trombone, and I hadn't really got the hang of it, so I was miming a lot, right? And I never got picked out to do a solo until we were in Switzerland in this little village, in the village bandstand, and everyone's playing, and then he comes on and does the solos, and there's me in the middle of this village hall, village square, all these people excitedly waiting, and all that came out was so I'm not a musician per se in terms of playing this, but I dabbled. Yeah.
So what were your influences back then?
Well, the first time I remember being influenced by a band or music that made me think, oh, I wouldn't mind doing this, was probably the Sex Pistols. But that was, I was 11, and I'd gone on this school trip to France, and it was my mum's school where she taught, and I was a few years younger than the lads that were there. They were all like 14, 15, I was 11, 12, I think I was 12, and it was 1978, and one of the lads, they're all listening to it, but he had this cassette of Never Mind the Bollocks, There's the Sex Pistols, and I was like, okay, this is quite radical, but I never really got to listen to it. And at the end of the school trip, he said to me, yeah, I'll take the tape, you can have it. I've got the record, I'll do another one. So I took the tape. Anyway, because I knew the language was pretty, fruity on it. So I'd listened to it on my little cassette recorder, bedroom door shut, really quiet, ear to the speaker, so my parents couldn't hear. And the first time I had an F-bomb, I was like, whoa, he just said, but it scared me in many ways. I found it intimidating. I still do when I look at John Lydon, I look at Steve Jones and I see him interviewed. They're intimidating people. They are raw, but I loved it, and I took that with me on my musical journey. I'm not saying I'm anything near the talent of those guys, I just do what I do, but I tried to take that with me, and I've tried to have that punk attitude, punk Sex Pistols attitude, because punk has become a parody of itself really, but I tried to take that sort of Sex Pistols attitude with me into music, and our whole rave scene, in my opinion, is based on that ethos. This is ours, it doesn't come from anyone else, we're not being told what to do, this is what we've got. And I think that's why the creativity right across the board for dance music has always been exciting. because I think that that is the attitude that prevails within most people. I mean, obviously you do get some mainstream people, but generally that's where people are with it. So yeah, Sex Pistols all the way.
Sure, yeah, okay. So and around what age did you start like with producing music, like the dance music?
I mean, that was what I was 23 at that point, 23, 24, it's a long time later. Yeah, I mean, I've always been DJing since I was about 16. So my involvement in music and clubbing comes from the early 80s. You know, I was playing and DJing really early on. And producing came later because you had to make a tune for people to know who you were. But it's even worse now. You have to make a tune for people to know who you are. You're not getting DJing gigs now as a DJ. You've got to be a producer as well. So I'm just glad I did it before, that I've managed to carry the name. I'm not under that pressure. But yeah, DJing, I was there from back with electro. I was playing clubs in London, playing, actually even before, I was playing like jazz funk and stuff, before electro even, you know, from a really early age. 14 was the first time I DJ'd.
Oh wow, that's pretty early.
Yeah, it was a school disco and they were all looking at me like, what is this guy playing, you know, because I was playing all this stuff from the States, all this disco stuff that none of them ever heard of. They were all like, why aren't you playing the jam, you know, but it was fun.
Yeah. So do you recall your very first ever release?
Yeah, because release or piece of vinyl that I had.
Yeah, that you released, your actual production.
Okay, yeah, well the first thing is I pressed up this track with me and this guy called Gucci, his name was, and we went under the act name of 2XL and we made a track called Destruction, and we basically pressed up 500 copies and we were just going around London selling it to shops. So I think that's how a lot of people start with this, you know, that went into production, because you know, it was very DIY. It was very kind of do-it-yourself. There weren't really any record labels in the early days where you could send tapes to A&R stuff. You had to kind of do something yourself. I mean, think about NWA. You know, it's touched on in the movie. They didn't go and sign a deal. They put a track out on their own label. You know, that's kind of how you had to start, really.
Yeah, for this vlog we're going to talk about Global Faces, a track you did back in the year 1996.
Yeah.
Was there anything that did inspire you when you started to work on the track?
Oh yeah, that's simple. It was Jones and Stevenson, the first Rebirth. You can hear it all the way. You can't hear it so much in the one that you know, the one that's on Prole Cult, and the one that most people know. A lot of people think that's the first version of it. It's not, because it was on my label Dream In, and that was a fast 160 BPM, just a straightforward melody, very similar to the first Rebirth. I wouldn't say I ripped it off, because I wrote my own riff, obviously, but it definitely stylized it on that. Yeah.
So can you tell a bit more about the production process from Global Faces?
So the original one, before we jazzed it up a bit, the original one was done in Red Jerry of Huge Tunes, this little studio in London, and I'd been working on some stuff with Baby Doc, and he went home. He was knackered. It was the middle of the night. I did it from 12 o'clock at night till 7 in the morning in one go, 2 mixes, you know, and I did it on this little Mackie desk, rubbish sampler. I did have a 303, so that saved me a bit, and I had an MC202 as well, so there's a little bit of both on there. And then just some sampled keyboard sounds. So yeah, it was quite basic, but yeah, did it overnight.
Yeah, so you made it like in one night?
In one night, yeah, 7 hours, bosh.
Oh wow. So yeah, for the new, I call it like the new version then, the one that starts like with the sample.
Yeah.
Where did that sample come from?
Well, the sample's from True Romance. It's the scene with Christopher Walken and Duval where they're in the camper van. Yeah. And he's like the gangster guy. He's like, hey, Sicilian guys, they like to lie. You know, that one. It's great, yeah. So that's where it came from.
Yeah. So you probably heard that and you were like, okay, this is great for a track.
It's great, it really is, yeah.
So yeah, what was the most difficult part of the production?
Anything to do with production is difficult for me. I find I'm not an engineer. I've never been a studio engineer. I'm an ideas guy. You know, I get tunes in my head. Yeah, my process for writing is very much, I'll be sitting down with the kids watching football or sitting with a girlfriend in a pub, and all of a sudden a tune comes to me. And I'm like, 1 second, and I get my phone out, which has got one of those little keyboards on it, and I just try and work out what the notes are and just write it down. That's how I do. And then as soon as I get home, put it into a MIDI file on my Mac, and then just leave it for a time when I can be bothered. Because honestly, I hate producing. I really do, right? It's just DJing is my life. Producing is just, ugh. But I do it out of respect for myself, because I know I can write nice music riffs. So therefore I should do it. I don't always enjoy it though. So yeah, so I leave these riffs on there, and when I can be bothered, I've got no kids, I've got no commitments, I've got no teaching. I'm like, right, I've got a day, I'm gonna do some music, and that's how I do it.
Yeah, you really have to sit down for it.
Yeah, and I have a lot of help. A lot of really good producers out there, modern producers now, which I know we're gonna talk about. A lot of modern producers have given me a lot of help, and I really thank them for it, lots of tips.
Yeah. So yeah, like the first version, when that came out, that was on your own label?
Originally it was on Dreaming, my own label, and Jerry was like, he said, where did you produce this? Right, as he recognised the sound of his mixing. So I did it in your studio. He went, you didn't pay me for that studio session, did I? And I went, no, I did it at the end. And he said, okay, right, go and remix it, and I want it on my label, and that's how it happened.
So yeah, what did happen after the release? Like, did it become a success, like straight away?
It sold a lot of units, but mostly, again, Prol Cult was selling units mostly in Europe. Britain's never really been big on the sort of more, certainly not the trancey, electronic. It's more house. Britain has always been more on the R&B side of dance music, house music, garage, drum and bass, early hardcore, breakbeat stuff. It's very much come from more of a sort of American sounding house music, and the sort of European sound. It's never really been that big in the UK. Now it's pretty non-existent, which is really sad, but there we are.
But it still was a successful release, right?
Very successful, yeah.
So did it also give you your DJ career a boost?
No, that was already doing really well at that point, because I'd done Mayday in '93, and having done Mayday, it never stopped after that. And I was organising events over in Canada and regularly coming to Germany, Switzerland, Netherlands. So yeah, I was already, I was going at that point as a DJ.
So yeah, what is it about Global Phases that makes it your most known track?
It's a recognisable riff. It's up there, I suppose, with tracks that people recognise. It's it's quite simple. It's not too complex. You can hum it. It's just, I think it's quite safe, if I'm honest. It's not my favourite Jon The Dentist track, but it is probably most other people's. Yeah.
So what is your favourite Jon The Dentist track?
The Culture, which I did on an album. It's not produced to the standard I want it to be in the modern vernacular, but musically I love it. I can still listen to it and not be bored by it. There's something about the key shifts in it that surprise you a bit. And I also like Pyramid, because I like any type of Egyptian-y type music, and that's probably the one that I did that's got that feel to it. And Mantra to the Buddha that I did with Baby Dog, I'm very fond of as well. So
yeah, back to Global Phases. Yeah,
Yep.
During the years it got remixed by names such as Agnelia Nelson, Mark Lawrence, and
Yep.
recently a brand new remix from iMoon got released via Sona Progressive.
yeah.
If you could pick whoever you wanted for a new remix, who would you pick then?
Okay, so this is going to be an easy answer, because you see, the Sawanda connection is because that label just makes me cry. It's so brilliant. There's so many good tracks on it, so many great artists on it. I love Roman Messer's passion for the music and the people he's bringing together. For me, Sawanda is out and above the best trance label in the world at the moment, right? So I really wanted to get on the label, and that's why I went and got somebody to remix it who I knew would sit on that label really well. So I got iMoon to do it. So the answer to that is I've already got the person I wanted to remix it. However, should Roman be interested in himself doing a mix, I'd love that. And Beat Soul. He is just out there for me. He is the best. It's going to sound bad because Angel, I love you, man. Big Topo as well. He's amazing too. Those two guys are just ripping it up at the moment, their music.
So yeah, can you tell what inspires you when you write or produce music?
Well, it's what I said, just little tunes come to my head. I'm just constantly, I'm like this mad guy that walks around with like, oh, I like that, you know, and then that's how it works. Or I might hear something, I'll be honest about it, I'll go and watch films and I'll hear film scores and I'll hear a riff in a film score and I'll go, ooh, that would make a good dance tune. So I do a bit of research. It's normally Hans Zimmer or Vangelis or Maurice Jarre, one of those three, you know, and I'll go away and I'll find out that original piece of music and just kind of work the notes out and then turn it into something that's full four friendly, because that can be quite tricky sometimes.
Yeah, I can imagine.
The timing, the time code. I mean, I never thought Adagio for strings ever worked, even though it's a beautiful sounding piece of music and some of the production on those mixes are amazing. It doesn't work for me because it's not a 4/4 timing. It's just far too disjointed in terms of when you're on the dance floor trying to listen to it. So sometimes it's hard to make these things work, and I take my hat off to people that can.
Yeah. Are there any people you would have liked to work with or still want to work with?
I would have loved to have done a studio session with Orbital, but pardon the pun, they're well out of my orbit. You know, what they're doing is inspiring really. They wouldn't work with a lowly person like me, but it would have been nice. I'm going to be working with people that I admire right now. I'm going to work with people like Beat Sol, do some more work with iMoon. I'm working with Big Topo, so I am working with people that I want to work with. But if it was like my dream collaboration, right? The happiest time in my life making music, the only time I've ever really enjoyed the process was when I was making Gabba, hardcore Gabba, you know, just because it was such a laugh, right? You know, 303s cranked up, distorted, big distorted kick drums. So I would love to see what would happen if I went in a studio, made one of those tracks with someone like Paul Elstack, right? And got Johnny Rotten to do some vocals on it. That would be amazing, wouldn't it? A Gabba tune with Johnny Rotten doing the vocals.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
That's my dream. Yeah. If you're looking out there, John Lydon, you have to do this with me.
So yeah, besides that, who are your favorite producers?
Right now, on the trance side of it, as I say, Beat Sol, Big Topo, iMoon, Jon van Deenhoven. It's quite a long list. Mike Push. There's a lot of them, but those are the ones that spring to mind. Ahmed Helmi's another guy that I really like to listen to. On the progressive house, Gelios, really fond of. Night Shift Master. There's a lot of stuff on Bonsai Progressive that I'm not very good at remembering the artist names, but there's a lot of stuff on there. So yeah, those guys.
Yeah. So what is your view of modern trance versus the older trance?
It's controversial. You know, as somebody who is known for the 90s, I don't play any 90s stuff at all. Modern trance is just on another level. I can't speak for the other genres in dance music. I can speak for trance because I know it. The production levels on what you've got now and some of the music writing, I think because a lot of Russians which I've named a few, but a lot of Russians have got involved in this. Russians just write music. It's just their thing, you know. You look at the great composers and the ballet, it's in their culture to write music. They are musical people. Sadly, some aren't at the moment, but we won't talk about that. But generally speaking, the Russians I know are just these like wonderful creative talents. So when you bring them to the party, like Bobina's another one, he was one of the first that came into this from Russia. And yeah, when you bring these guys in, you've upscaled the quality of the music writing. Production is just off the charts. You know, if you play a 90s tune now, if I play a set, the only way I can get a 90s tune in is if someone's remixed one in a modern sort of style, because the dynamics just aren't there. I can't make a case for saying, yeah, I can't make a case for getting all nostalgic about 90s trance music. Now trance music is better.
Yeah. So yeah, you've been a DJ for a long time already. I bet you experienced some crazy things during the years. Is there any cool story you can and want to share?
Well, yeah, there's a lot of stories that I wouldn't share. As you imagine, you know, it's quite a crazy time. But the one I do remember is I went to Switzerland on British Airways, and they happened to lose my record case, right?
No.
And it's like the last flight in, and I'm standing at the, you know, the thing that goes around, the carousel. It's like a pram and a golf club, right? I don't know where that came from. And they're just going around like this. I'm like, where's my record? I'm there for like 20 minutes. So I go to and they say, yeah, sorry. And they look it up and they're like, oh yeah, your record case got sent to Croatia. I'm like, okay, are there any flights coming in tonight you can get it back? They're like, no, tomorrow. I'm like, that'll be helpful because the gig's tonight. So anyway, the guy that was driving me, he said, don't worry. He said, I've got an idea, right? We'll go around to my friends' houses and we'll make a set. They all buy records and we'll see if we can get your set. And I was like, all right. So we went to about 9 houses, but they were like miles apart. There was this one house that was on a mountain, right? And we go halfway up this mountain and into his house. And in the space of 10 minutes, I've picked out 4 or 5 records. And he's like, hey, thank you, no problem. Off I go. As I'm going out the door, in come a SWAT team. It's like a drugs raid, and they're pulling out bags from this guy's room, like big bags of weed, and we're up against the wall like this, you know. We're just getting some records, man, you know. And that was one hell of a night. And then we got stuck in a snowdrift halfway back down the mountain. So I turn up at this gig, and I've made this set out of this hodgepodge of different records and it was going to be a good set, and I played the set and it was really good. And then the promoter refused to pay me.
No.
Because he found out. He said, well, it wasn't your set. I'm like, are you kidding me? I've been halfway around Switzerland. For all I know, we've gone into Austria and Germany. I don't know, right? We've been everywhere trying to get these records, and he didn't pay me. So yeah, that was a bit crazy.
What year was that?
Oh God, now somewhere in the 90s.
Somewhere in the 90s. Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay, I think from all the interviews I did, this is the most crazy story I've ever heard so far. Let's see if someone can top this.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Yeah. So yeah, with all the modern technology these days, do you think DJing is much easier in the modern era?
No, it's harder. And I'll explain why. Because everybody can do it, or technically everyone can do it. Everyone can use sync buttons. I mean, I use sync buttons because of what you can then do with your sets. Without the sync button, you can't do the next things, which is you can, especially with trance, because trance has generally got very small lead outs and lead ins, or it can be musical. So you often need to loop parts of the track. I think trance is harder to DJ now than it ever has been, because the people who are producing it are not DJs and they're not understanding what makes it DJ friendly. But I mean, I like that because what it shows is you've got to be a DJ to play it. You can't just rock up, and just because you can hit sync buttons, that doesn't mean anything. The skill in DJing now is not beat matching. That's gone. You know, that doesn't matter. It's irrelevant. You know, it's not clever to, oh, look at me. You know, at the end of the day, the skill is how you piece these sets together. And for me, I'm always, when I go to a gig with trance music, it has to be prepared. It has to be, this has to have been tried out, because it will not work on the hoof, because the keys, because of the way that some of the tracks are structured, the fact that you know that you've got to loop at certain points, you've got to use hot cues, you know, you've got to really know your music. So I would say it's marginally harder, because to stand out, it's not good enough just to play music. To stand out, you've got to know your music, you've got to have done your research, you've got to know what your sound is as a DJ, and you've got to give that energy to a crowd. And it's one thing, somebody who's got their controller or their standalone unit at home, or they're on Ableton, it's one thing doing that. It's another thing standing in front of 10,000 people and taking them with you on your particular journey or trip. It's a hard skill, and it's harder now because a lot of these people who are producers who are getting gigs, they've not had the training of DJing. They've not done the graft. They haven't done the apprenticeship. They haven't gone to a little club. They haven't used dodgy equipment.
Yeah, they never use it. They don't even know. Yeah, they never touched the vinyl before, maybe.
No, they've never done that. And I think all of that, when you bring that in, it's not a coincidence that when you go to these festivals, even though the crowd might be from young to, it's a mixture, most of the DJs are the older ones, right? And that's not a coincidence. That's because they've got the skills, that they've been doing this for a long time. Anything in life, you know, the older you get, the better you get at, other than sports, obviously. Yeah, but music's no different. You know, the more experience you have, the better you're going to be at it.
So are there still any big events or festivals you would love to play at?
There's two on my wish list. I won't go to America, so nothing over there I won't.
So no Burning Man?
I won't go to America, just politically, and it's not a safe country, and yeah, there's too much going on over there that I hate to be political, but morally not interested. I'm not going to your country. I don't want to know, right? I'm not particularly proud of Britain at the moment, but I live there, so I haven't got a choice. If I could protest and leave, I would. But I think so. The two that I really want to do are Tomorrowland and Luminosity. Those, they're on the radar. Yeah. Come on, book me, guys. Yeah. That's where I want to play. That's
one of those should be possible, right?
You never know.
So what are you working on right now, or can we expect any new music from you soon?
Yes. So obviously I just had the A Moon Suanda thing. I've completed one of my own projects, which I'm not sure where it's going to go at this point, but I do have a mix from Big Topo in the pipeline of the culture. So no doubt that will find its way to probably Suanda. Mm-hmm. That's my kind of go-to. It's still an independent label, but it's just nice to be on there. And I've got some things in the pipeline with Bonsai as well, which should be exciting. But unfortunately, that is a watch this space thing at the moment.
So is there still something on your bucket list music-wise?
No, not really, because I'm living that list. Every day I can listen to some music. Every day I can play some music. Every day I can, in this dark tunnel of the world at the moment, that's just horrible. It really is. I don't need to say all the things because we know what they are. Music is just a little tiny light that you can see through the dark. And for me, that light just does that. Burns bright, and I ignore the tunnel, and so I'm at an age now where I'm just going to get up in the morning, I'm going to smile all day, I'm going to listen to music, and if I get to play it out and share it with people, fabulous. Nothing pleases me more than getting someone else's tune and sharing it. Not mine, someone else's, that has made the hairs stand up on me. Listen to this. So no, I'm living that bucket list already. I'm very happy. So
maybe the Orbital and Johnny Rotten thing, that would be something.
Well, yeah, what I alluded to earlier on, the Orbital thing will never happen, and probably not the Johnny Rotten thing either. But yeah.
So what kind of music do you listen to in your spare time?
Well, I've already said, I'm really big into film scores and film scorers, and I obviously named a few. But also a massive influence on my music has been the fact that I love Italian opera. So Puccini, and Puccini particularly, Puccini and Verdi is like European trance, which is Puccini, and Verdi, which is Gatecrasher. It's nice, but it's a bit obvious. What I love about Puccini and why I'm a passionate Puccini fan and listen to a lot, and obviously there's a limited amount of operas, I have to listen to them again a lot, try out different singers, but it's just those note shifts, those key shifts, those unexpected little punctuations in the libretto with the music. So I'm really passionate about opera, and also, as I say, film scores. Vangelis was a dark week. Yeah. That was a really dark week for me, and I say that genuinely because even as recently as 3 or 4 years ago, he put some stuff on YouTube, which I would advise anyone to see. The guy was a genius musically. What he could do with a synthesizer, no one has ever got near to that.
Yeah, legend.
Yeah, just completely. That word gets used a lot, but in his case, hopefully it will just prevail forever, like Puccini.
Yeah. So, and the last question, pineapple on pizza, yes or no?
Pizza is the work of the devil, right? Cheese, mouldy milk, is the work of the devil, right? And as for tomatoes, I'm sorry, tomatoes, how I want them. Crunchy, al fresco, some olive oil, bit of wine vinegar, salt and pepper, and a nice sourdough ciabatta. That's how a tomato should be enjoyed, not cooked, soggy and sweet and thrown on a bit of bread and cheese, which is the devil's work.
So I guess that's a no.
No pizzas.
No, okay.
No thanks. I would rather eat
Something else.
something else. If you ask me my favourite food, I'll say Penang there, which is a Thai dish. It's like a beef, coconut and lime.
Thai food is amazing.
Very hot chili dish. Just some nice plain rice and a nice Singer beer. That is food perfection.
Good, good. Is that also on your rider, like your DJ rider?
No, because no one can cook it. I dread to think what I'd end up with. No.
Yeah, exactly. All right, thanks a lot for your time and good luck with everything.
Absolutely my pleasure. Lovely to talk to you.
All right, that was it. This week's vlog, the story behind Global Faces, my interview with Jon the Dentist. Jon, thank you very much for your time. Much appreciated. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the vlog. If you did, make sure to give this video a like, leave a comment in the comment section below, and very important, make sure to subscribe. Also make sure to click the bell button, because then you will get a notification the next time a new vlog is online. Once again, thanks for watching, and until next time, bye bye!